gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's August the 17th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And today we're going to begin with a discussion on our latest episode of the GOAT series. This is episode number 7 now of season 1. And this one is with former Miami coach and quarterback Mark Richt. And Matt, all these GOATs interviews have just been more spectacular than the previous one. It's really been a great series here in season 1. And Roy Firestone has done a spectacular job interviewing all of the subjects: Jimmy Johnson, Mario Cristobal, Jim Kelly, Bertie Kosar. This interview with Mark Richt that we unveil today is interesting in a different kind of way, and just some amazing revelations come out of this interview. We learned, and I've never seen this before, this is the first time that this has ever been reported, that Mark Richt had Parkinson's disease the entire time that he was the head coach at Miami. And he also believes that he had it the last few years that he was at Georgia. He, started getting some warning signs, kind of ignored them. He thought that a lot of it was accelerated by the pressure of coaching, the stress, that coaches live under. And it's just amazing to think about that the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes for 3 seasons was doing it while the onset of Parkinson's disease was taking hold.
Did not like the interview whatsoever.
Come on, man. This is not something to joke about. Come on, man. This is serious.
I'm not joking. It makes you feel inadequate to your core because it's like Gandhi and Mother Teresa. It's like, how do you compare to this person? Why am I not as noble as this person? Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with all of you out there that you can't be like Mark Richt? He's an amazing.
How do you come up with this spin? How do you possibly?
Because you watch that and you're like, he adopted these 2 children who are going to basically be thrown out on the streets from Ukraine. He helps anybody in need. This guy's got so many problems of his own, and he's just out there to help people, man. And it just makes you feel bad. It makes you feel bad about yourself. It's like, why can't I do more? I didn't adopt anybody. I don't really help anybody. If anything, I berate people, or get berated. If everybody was like Mark Richt out there, it would be a world with no problems, quite honestly. So yeah, it was a little depressing watching that, just realizing how inadequate I am. I'm sorry, but and you're inadequate too, by the way, Gary. Very inadequate, I might add. He's an amazing person. You watch that, and you just think, wow, like, how come I fall short in every single category that he's an amazing person in? That's how I watch these things. Obviously, other people watch it differently. They just think, wow, that's great, good for him. I just think, what's my problem? That's how I watch these things.
You've had some amazing moments on this Good Morning CaneSport show. This is one of your best, I got to tell you. Because I started listening to you here. I'm like, how is he coming up with a negative spin on this? And the fact that the way you did it was to self-demean yourself, that I am not as good a person as Mark Richt.
Listen, I'm not kidding. I don't like...
That's creative, man. That is creative.
It's not creative. It's the truth. I don't like watching any I love documentaries, but I don't like documentaries where you just realize how your life has turned out compared to maybe what you could have done, And like watching Mark Richt in this 34-minute thing, it's like, man, I really... If I can go back and do my life again, I mean, obviously the religious stuff, I probably, my parents wouldn't probably like that so much. But everything else he did in life, it's just, you think, why can't you follow that moral code? Because moral code's not about religion, whatever religion you people are out there, It's about how you treat others. It's about how you want to make the world better. I mean, when he cried watching a video of himself from when he was 10 years old. He looked like he was 10.
What he did, he started crying. Absolutely. And Roy was like kind of surprised. Roy said, "Hey, I'm the guy that makes him. By the way, I'm the guy that makes him cry."
He wasn't just crying. I mean, some people will cry, and it's like, yeah, you know, were they really crying for the cameras? Like, he was bawling. Like, that was just raw. Mark Richt is who Mark Richt is. He doesn't care what you think of him. He doesn't care that he made me feel totally inadequate as a human being. He just is who he is. And if you don't like it, too bad. And if he, you know, and he's just there to pull you up, man. And like, if Miami fans are still upset about how his tenure ended here and, you know, what happened afterwards, or how he lost the last 3 games after going 10-0, I mean, shame on you, because you obviously are like me and are super inadequate, if that's how you feel.
Well, I mean, I wish I probably should have clipped that crying scene for this show, but we'll let people watch it.
No,
you know,
I mean, it's
on the website this morning. Watch this interview. It is unbelievable. It really is. And like what Matt's referring to is Mark and his wife were overseas, and they went to, I think it was an orphanage or something, and there was a girl there whose face was deformed, young little girl who had been abandoned by her parents because she was born with a deformed face. And Mark and Catherine Richt just said, nobody's going to take this girl. And they decided, we are going to do it. And they took her, they brought her here to this country. They've raised her. Now she's a veterinary assistant in Georgia. I mean, absolutely unbelievable.
That's not even the best part. To me, it's great. They went there. They also took another child also. They said, we can't leave this kid here. We can't leave this kid behind either. But that's not even the best part to me. The best part to me, it's not that, okay, you know, we have a nice life. We'll help a couple of poor kids. No, that's not where it ends for for Mark Richt and his wife. He like what he said, it just struck a chord with me. It had a serious resonance when he said his advice, and we all give advice to our children, right? His advice to his daughter, whose face was deformed, was, when someone stares at you, go up to them and say, "Hi, my name is whatever. What's your name?" Because he said, you know, he didn't tell her this, but he said that's what she should do. And he said to the camera, he said to Roy Firestone, because that will let them know this is just another person. It's just a regular person. Treat me like everyone else. And that, just the fact that he had that train of thought is something I thought I was an okay parent, like fairly average, but okay. But that thought never even would have occurred to me to even think, tell her how to deal with someone staring at her. Tell her how to deal with a bully. You know, you always think my kids will figure it out. You know, I was thrown to the wolves as a child. It'll toughen them up, you know. But it's nice to have somebody who cares that much and will give you that kind of advice. I mean, that's great advice. Like, that is, you know, if he wasn't a football coach, he should be a therapist or a saint, one or the other. You know, he could take his pick of either profession, in my opinion.
And, you know, this is just one of the moments in this. It's about a 38-minute interview, I believe. And I mean, just one sequence of it is more riveting than the other. I mean, Mark Richt talks about having a heart attack after he left Miami and lying on the table in the hospital, and he thought he was dying. Like, he thought he was seeing the light. And he talks about how he was at peace because he knew he was going to heaven. And I mean, you know, that's amazing. And then, of course, he talks about coaching with Parkinson's disease. And I did clip that. And let me give you guys a quick look at that.
I did lose my sense of smell back at Georgia. And what happens, Roy, what happens when you finally are diagnosed with Parkinson's, when the movement symptoms or the motor symptoms manifest, the ones we've been describing, by the time they manifest, you've probably had it 5 to 10 years. So
wow. You might have been coaching with Parkinson's.
Oh, there's no question I was at Miami. And I'm pretty sure at the end of Georgia I was as well, because one of the non-motor symptoms is loss of smell, which you just mentioned on the screen. And I remember losing my smell in 2012.
Wow.
Which was, 3 years left at Georgia. So,
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, we lose our smell now. We think we have COVID. He lost his smell then, and he had Parkinson's disease and didn't even realize it, and kept coaching for 6 more years. I mean, absolutely unbelievable, and just absolutely incredible story. He also talked about Matt how coaching and the stress of coaching he felt contributed to him getting sick, and I wanted to play that here as well.
Do you think coaching contributed to it? Was part of it?
Oh yeah. Well, they say some of the three biggest triggers for Parkinson's is toxins in your body, inflammation in your body, and stress. So that's coaching is a recipe for disaster when it comes to that, because you get rid of toxins by exercising. If you don't do enough of that, it's not good. Your brain detoxes as you sleep. Well, we don't sleep enough. We got plenty of stress. We could vouch for that, and inflammation in the body comes with some of the things we do as coaches as well. So probably didn't help much, I'd have to say.
So you guys can see it's an absolutely riveting interview. We can't recommend enough that you guys take the time to watch episode 7 of UM Goats with Mark Richt. And if you've missed any of the previous episodes, some were combo interviews that were divided into 2 episodes that we've now combined into 1. But we link to the other videos in that content item that has the Mark Richt interview as well. So catch up on all those. Don't miss any of them. It's maybe the greatest thing that we've ever done at CaneSport.com. It's just so different and so interesting. And I hope you guys take advantage of these interviews with an iconic interviewer in Roy Firestone. So can't recommend the Mark Richt interview enough to you. All right, so there's that, and there's other stuff on the website this morning talking about great interviews. We sent Azubi Charles out to Miami Edison High School, and he ended up sitting down with Luther Campbell for a very extensive interview and chat about Miami football and what Luther Campbell sees. And Matt, I thought that also was just a sensational story, and I think people are going to really enjoy that this morning. Luther Campbell has not always been on the Cane train. Like, you go back to the 2 Live Crew days, he used to wear the Canes jackets on stage when he did his performances. And, as he very astutely points out, he kind of invented NIL.
Got the best.
He was doing pay
That's great.
He was doing pay for play like crazy back then. Of course, it wasn't legal, but I thought it was just a very interesting interview. And it's like now in recent years, he's been steering a lot of kids from the inner city of Miami to schools not named the University of Miami. So they're having to bring him back to the mothership, so to speak. Sounds like Mario Cristobal's doing that.
He was always on the Cane train. It's just he didn't really appreciate how some of the prior coaches were recruiting the schools in his area that, around Miami Edison. And I don't understand why Manny Diaz didn't seem to be interested in some of the programs and some of the recruits that were leaving town in that area. But, Luther Campbell calls it like it is, man.
He really
and
does.
I know some fans, for whatever reason, aren't big fans of Luther Campbell, but he's sort of, I appreciate him because he's like me. He's not going to just pander to the crowd to make everyone happy. He's going to say what he thinks, whether people like it or not. Like, that's what he believes.
Compare yourself to Luther Campbell now.
And if he's wrong, he's wrong.
Am I hearing you compare yourself?
No, because Luther Campbell's
Uncle Luke.
There's a difference. There's a big difference, okay? Because Luther Campbell says what he believes, but sometimes he's wrong, whereas I say what I believe, and obviously I am fill in the blank. Speaking of which, I do want to give a shout out, okay? My buddy TD Miles on the YouTube, whatever, I don't even know what you call this stuff,
YouTube comments.
Comments, thank you. He came up with hashtag show ponies, which I love because everyone else was saying hashtag horrible show, hashtag negative show, things like that. So TD, I thank you very much for your patronage. You really are my biggest fan because you're my only fan. So just technically by the letter of the actual definition of that phrase, you are my fan. Thank you.
So, do we have to start calling you Uncle Matt now? Are you?
I guess what? I do have 5 people that call me Uncle Matt. If you want to call me Uncle Matt along with my nephews and nieces, feel free. Like, I don't mind.
I want to hear you sing "Me So Horny." That's what I want to hear you sing. I want to hear you sing
Nobody wants
Uncle Luke song "Me So Horny."
Nobody wants to hear that. If Luther Campbell wants to sit in the chair next to me, I'll do, I guess I would do whatever he tells me to do. But Gary Ferman telling me to do things, yeah, that's not happening.
I wonder if we could get Luke to do a performance on Good Morning CaneSport.
I'm going to go with no. I don't think that would happen.
Oh, man.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be pretty funny. But, anyway, it's a really interesting story. We don't want to give the whole thing away. But, yeah, today's a really good content day at CaneSport.com. We've got some good stuff. And in addition to the Goats, we've with Mark Richt, we've got this Luther Campbell story that Azubi Charles did that's really, really, really good. So make sure you guys check that out as well. All right, we got a few other things still to talk about. But first, let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
Me lastimé la cadera en 8º grado en una práctica antes de un juego. Si hubiese tenido Life Wallet en ese momento, mi proceso de recuperarme hubiera sido más rápido. Ser parte de este equipo es lo mejor porque me está abriendo puertas y puedo conocer a más personas. Mi sueño es llegar a la NFL y jugar con mi hermano en la NFL. Yo soy Life Wallet. Ahorrando tiempo, salvando vidas.
How about that, man? We've gone bilingual now.
Yeah, that was my favorite ad because I didn't understand a word of it.
Well, that's why they had the subtitles for you, Matt. They put them on there just for you.
I wasn't looking. I'm sorry. I actually was trying to do something else.
They had subtitles.
That's my bad.
Everything he said was translated. It's awesome.
I really was. I have to start watching these ads a little more closely. I mean, when I get the break for the 2 minutes, I'm like returning texts to recruits and stuff.
All right, just don't tell us the whole story about how your grandfather turned the TV off when the commercials came on, and you're a creature of habit, and that's why you don't watch commercials today, and the whole thing. We don't need to hear that again.
Okay, I thought it was a fairly good story, but
it actually was a good story. I'm just giving
you the truth. Whether it's a good story or not, it actually is the truth. So I mean,
you've been on a roll lately. Your fan club has got to be exploding. You're without question carrying this show.
Without question, no doubt.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean,
it's obvious.
I'm looking back at the one I did solo. Let me.
Listen. My mother always told me that I had a face built for radio, and finally, I'm getting a chance to show my skills.
Yeah, I mean, the one I did solo falls well short of the ones that I do with you. So it's people love you, man. They love you. All right, let's talk about what else is on the website today. We have an update with safety Cam Kinchens, and I've made no secret of this from long before fall practice started, that I believe that Cam Kinchens, for the Miami defense to perform to its capabilities, Cam Kinchens must be on the football field. And we haven't had any starting lineup announcements yet. We know they're doing a lot of things schematically. We will not give it all away. But I will tell you that there will be times when you will see Cam Kinchens, James Williams, and Devontae Williams all on the field at the same time. I think there will be times when you will see James Williams in the box, probably a lot of times, because I think that Kevin Steele is coming to the same realization that I knew he would, which is that he's got to have Cam Kinchens on the field, that this guy just flat makes plays. And he's had a bunch of interceptions, Matt, in 11-on-11 work in the first week of practice, in the scrimmage on Saturday. Cam Kinchens is the real deal.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments with Kevin Steele. I mean, we had that great interview with him off Media Day, and one of the things I talked with him about there, I don't think I really wrote it in the story because it didn't really translate into the story the way I wanted it to, was I asked about James Williams and how he would use James Williams. He said James Williams is a safety, but we're going to use him in the box a lot, And I said, so sometimes he'll be a linebacker? No. Kevin Steele said he's a safety. Because James Williams wants to be a safety.
Politics.
So they're going to call him a safety, but they're going to use him like a linebacker. I don't know what this world has come to when you can't call somebody who's lining up at linebacker a linebacker.
It's called psychology, man.
He wants to be called a safety. I mean, what if a defensive lineman wants to be called a defensive back? You just say, okay, listen, you're a safety. We're just going to line you up at the position like a defensive end would play every time you're in the field. But you're a safety. Don't worry, you're a safety. But you're going to just line up on the line of scrimmage. But don't worry about it. You are a safety. Like, that's basically what they're doing. I mean, it's hilarious because they know James Williams has this fixation with not being a linebacker, which, by the way, I think he'll be a linebacker in the NFL. He's gaining weight. He's getting bigger. And, I mean, he'd be a monster outside linebacker.
I think he's controlling his diet, though. He's not really gaining that much weight.
No, but he looks bigger. He looks bigger, to me at least. And it just he's a physical. He's a marvel. He's a physical marvel. He really is. But and maybe you're right. Maybe he could get bigger a lot quicker if he wanted to. I don't know that many details about that. But regarding Cam Kinchens, I did talk to someone at the program whose name is not Cam Kinchens, who says that Cam Kinchens will be the starting safety. Sorry, James Williams is the starting linebacker. I mean safety. Cam Kinchens will start, according to someone I spoke to, over Avante Williams, because most of the teams Miami plays are fairly good passing offenses, and Miami now has realized, hey, you know what? Our front seven's not too bad, man. They can stop the run. So when you have a front seven that can stop the run, it's not as necessary to have a cleanup safety behind them just as a physical tackler. You can use that guy in so many different ways. And guess what? Cam Kinchens had one of the top tackling grades for most of last season until he started having injury issues. So he can tackle. He's fast, much better coverage skills than Avante Williams. It makes sense in this current Miami defense, the way they're running it with Kevin Steele, that Cam Kinchens is at safety more often than Avante Williams will be. On those few occasions where James Williams is actually a safety.
Well, the thing that Cam Kinchens, he's not as physical as Avante.
No.
But the thing that he does way better than Avante is cover. And, they can drop him down. He could pick up a tight end or receiver and cover them well. And many times he's going to come down with interceptions. And
by the way, let me add something too, because this is an issue, and Kevin Steele is not going to be doing this, which is the only reason I'll mention it. We were watching 11 on 11, and at one point, and I hated this when Manny Diaz did it, okay? Manny Diaz called it, what did he call it? He called it the Star, I think is what he had it called his last year, something like that. Striker, sorry. What's it called now?
Now it's called, is it the Star or the Vice?
Is it the Star now? Yeah, now it's the Star. Right. I get confused. Okay. So Manny Diaz would line up someone at striker, and there was too many times where the striker was a big-bodied guy trying to cover a slot receiver. And, in this Kevin Steele defense, it happened once in 11-11 where Gil Frierson was lined up against a slot receiver, and it never happened again. And Gil Frierson was torched on it, of course. That's something that Kevin Steele will not do. He will not do it. I'm sure it was a miscommunication on the defense, something, it's early in practices, right? But my point is, Manny Diaz repetitively, because they were so blitz happy and they just figured, okay, we just got to do it, and he can cover him for 2 seconds till the blitz gets there, whatever. And there was several times where that ended not real well for Miami. So I think they need a guy like Cam Kinchens who can move different spots, because this defense is going to confuse the hell out of offenses. They have guys like James Williams that can play in the box or drop at safety. They have a couple of defensive linemen who actually would be decent in coverage if they need to drop. They have linebackers that can blitz or play the run, or the outside linebackers, Keontre and Chase Smith, can cover. And because of the athleticism on the defense, and by the way, if for those fans that didn't notice and were upset about the heights and weights of the fall and some of these guys losing weight instead of gaining weight, well, whatever you saw, even if some of it was not accurate, it's by design. They all drop body fat. Like, that's a recurring theme that we've been hearing nonstop. Drop body fat, drop body fat, drop body fat, every single player on the team. And what that does is it makes you faster, leaner, more flexible, and it means you can be more multiple. You can do more things. You can be a little quicker, a little faster, a little more explosive, which means you can get in and out of small spaces much easier. So if Kevin Steele wants to manipulate that defense, and if these guys can understand it, he can create a real monster for any quarterback who thinks he knows what the defense looks like pre-snap, and then all of a sudden, bam, they're all moving around like crazy, It sort of reminds me when, remember we had a luncheon with Randy Shannon back in the good old days, Gary, at that place on the Miracle Mile. What was the name of that place? It's almost like a diner. You don't remember this?
I remember. I remember. I don't remember the name of the place.
Yeah, so it was like early in the fall practice. It was hey, come have lunch with Randy. They called it that, lunch with Randy. Like, I don't know how many people actually want to have lunch with Randy, but I enjoyed having lunch with Randy. And
I'll have lunch with Randy anytime he wants.
I love Randy Shannon. Okay, he's different with the media as a coach than he is as a person. One of the nicest people, best people you'll ever meet in the world. But covering him and asking him questions in the media throng is not that much fun. The lunch was very relaxed. And, I was talking to Randy. I've known Randy forever. And I said, listen, I got to 7-on-7. I'm sorry. We were playing flag football. So it was 4-on-4 flag football league for old people. And I asked him to, is there any suggestions he has for my flag football team? And he whips out a napkin and he starts writing like, the four of us on defense and moving us all over the place. Here's the offense. Here's what you do on like, is us running all over the place. Like we're like running 4-4-40s. I'm like, I said, thank you, of course. And then I promptly threw out the napkin when he wasn't looking because there was no way we could have done all that. I mean, but you should have seen this napkin, Gary. That's the Kevin Steele defense. He's going to have players running all over the place, like where the quarterback's not going to expect them to be. And if you just create that one extra second of confusion, meet my little friend Akeem Messidor. Meet my little friend Mitchell Agude. That's what's going to wind up happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see the defense this year. I think it's going to be much better. I love what I'm hearing about the defensive line. And I like what Kevin Steele, it looks like he's going to do with Cam Kinchens, James Williams, and Avante Williams. And it's going to be very interesting to see how effective they are in the big games this year. It really is, Matt. But so we do have that update with Cam today that I think you're going to like. A couple recruiting stories that are worth checking out as well. We have a really interesting story on a relatively new name in the 2023 recruiting cycle, and that's a defensive end by the name of Joseph Mapoy. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Did I get that right, Matt?
No.
No? How does he pronounce his last name?
I'm not telling you.
All right. Well, anyway, he's got a really interesting story. The Canes are after him. He's going to take a fall visit to UM, so don't miss that.
I mean, look, I'm kidding. I spoke to his coach. I believe it's Mapoye, but I think that's what his, I think that's how you pronounce it, but maybe you're right.
Mupoi.
Yeah,
I would pronounce that Mapoy.
This is one of those recruits. I'd never talked to him before, and I didn't want to say how. In a normal world, you say, "How do you pronounce your last name?" I guess, but I just pretended I knew his name, and we just started talking. And he's such a great student athlete, and talking to his coach, who who's in the NFL for several years. I think I might have even had him on one of my horrible fantasy teams. It's a story worth reading. For those of you that didn't get a chance to read it, what was it, yesterday afternoon? Is that when we ran it?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, a really, really unique story about somebody from Africa who came to the U.S. to try and better his life and his family's life as a basketball player, and then realized after his sophomore year that he had no scholarships and was trying to figure out what the heck can I do, and went up to the football coach of the school and said, hey, can I try football? And the coach is like, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Kid goes home, and the next day his phone rings. Yeah, sure. It come out for the football team because Archbishop Carroll has a really good football team. I actually used to work in that neck of the woods for the Baltimore Sun community papers covering high school teams, so I know. And won the starting job, 1 year of film, and he got 20 plus offers now, including Miami's super interested in him. So it's a really cool story.
There's another cool recruiting story on the site today with a 4-star wide receiver DB, Jalewis Solomon. And Matt, he grew up dreaming of Miami.
I mean,
as a little kid, he's dreaming of the Miami Hurricanes.
The funny part, I didn't put this in the story, okay? But the funny part is he's going on and on. And, I'm a reporter, right? I'm not a coach. So when a coach calls a recruit, when a reporter calls a recruit, they're totally different. The coach is calling the recruit to tell the recruit about the Miami Hurricanes and what the program offers and sort of what he can expect as a Miami Hurricane. A reporter calls to just ask questions. You're peppering him with questions, right? So when Kevin Smith called this recruit to give him an offer, it wasn't, it was more like, hey, we really love your film, just basically telling the student athlete why he got an offer and what Miami is. And I'm asking him personal things, and eventually, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes into the conversation, it comes up that he's a huge Miami fan, but he doesn't know why. His family doesn't root for Miami. He just has always dreamed of Miami, and you put Miami into his PowerPoint presentation in school when they, in this class, when they said, where do you want to be, and things like that. And I said, wow. I said, well, what did Kevin Smith say, when you told him that you loved Miami so much? And the kid says to me, I didn't tell Kevin Smith. I said, why didn't you tell him? And he says to me, he didn't ask. So that's the difference between a reporter and a coach. The coach isn't like, do you love us? What do you think of us? They're giving the recruit the information, whereas I'm pulling the information. It was just sort of a neat moment, because you realize it's two totally opposite approaches to how you deal with a prospect when you're a reporter versus when you're a coach. And I'm sure the coach got a heck of a lot more information that he gave to the recruit about Miami than I did, because I wasn't there to tell him about Miami. I was there to pull the information out. So, it's a sort of little funny moment.
All right, and lastly today, we also have a story. Everybody knows how the offensive line has been having some challenges in run blocking here in the last few days as they've gone to full pads. We have a story with where Alex Mirabal talks about all of that, so you'll find that interesting as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's Good Morning CaneSport. Remember, subscribe to our website at CaneSport.com. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like this video. Help us continue to grow and get in good with all these folks at YouTube that have all the crazy algorithms and stuff, so that our audiences can continue to grow. Make sure you go check out all of that content on the website this morning. That Goats interview with Mark Richt is absolutely awesome, but everything else is great as well. Today is not a day to skip anything. Spend some time on the website and enjoy all of this content, because it's really, really good. And I'll stop plugging. That's it. But no, but seriously, no, it's really good, folks. So make sure you check it all out. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for starting your day with us once again, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.